me that ID for just the regular gatehouse train. Is that the regular string? Okay.
If you can see us, we'll be starting in just a second. Because there we are.
Awesome. All right. Just tell me that ID out loud. I'll switch it over, and then we'll be good to go.
Sorry. That would be DU72HU0UV, capital UV, sorry.
Capital U?
Yep. Capital B, small c, 0.
That's it.
And of course, the train passes right as we're about to finally go live.
I haven't heard a horn yet. So
that's right.
Maybe they're being
said
considerate.
Now it'll happen.
Yeah.
Bear with us and the modern technology that is Gatehouse Media's innovation team and their goodies. I should tell you folks, if you can hear me back in Kansas, it's got to be about 80 degrees.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I think it's 100% humidity.
It is pretty sticky. It's a very sticky day here.
Kansas is kind of underrated. It's kind of low-key, a very humid state, but nothing compares to this.
No.
Getting out of the vehicle yesterday was kind of a rude awakening.
It hits you like a wall a little bit. I'm from Buffalo, New York, so the first time I came here, I just remember thinking, wow, it's like soup.
Yeah.
No?
It's not right.
Hold on. We'll get it. Okay. So
that's a 0.
I should be giving you what?
Okay. I just took it from you.
No, wait. Should I be giving you something else though? Share, copy link. That's what I gave you.
Yeah, that's what you should do. Okay. You gave me the rate. It's just not right.
Now, once we do this once, we'll know this every time. Work forever. And we'll say, remember when Matt Galloway was with us on that first one that we botched for the first 5 minutes?
I'm happy to be a guinea pig. We're just building anticipation.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Okay. Save and close. Isn't it great having just update our website from the telephone? All right.
All right, perfect. It looks like it's finally working.
Great.
I'm Tim Schmidt with Gatehouse Media. We're here in San Antonio. I'm with Matt Galloway, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for the Topeka Capital Journal and CJ Online. Interesting first day as we get ready for the Final Four. In what I would say, sure, the whole nation has fallen in love with Sister Jean and, you know, the the hysteria around Loyola Chicago. I think everybody, kind of as was the case with the Kansas Duke game last weekend, knows that Kansas Villanova is about as good as it gets. Some blue bloods. Did you learn anything today that maybe you didn't know going into today so far, Matt?
Yeah, I think that the Loyola Chicago locker room was definitely a sight to be seen for a team that I believe only had the college beat writer following the team throughout the year. That had to be kind of a rude awakening to have no wiggle room at all for those guys. But I think the only thing that we really learned today was, Bill Self said it in his news conference. From start to finish this season, no team has been more consistent, and really over the last 5 years, no team has come closer to reaching its ceiling than Villanova. They have the likely player of the year in Jalen Brunson. It's going to be a very, just dynamic matchup with Devontae Graham. Villanova, a team that's gone through 2 Big 12 schools already, looking to make it a third, but they've kind of climbed the ladder. It's going to be a huge test for Devontae Graham. I think Devontae Graham, KU's own National Player of the Year contender. It's had kind of a rough postseason. It's been an effort that guys like Silvio De Sousa, Udoka Azubuike, Malik Newman, whereas the whole regular season he kind of put them on his back. Right now, the roles are kind of being reversed. Devontae's still kind of, I liken him to an engine. You don't really see him always in the stats or in things like that, but he makes everything move. It's kind of, he's had a bit of a rough postseason, but I expect that to change this weekend, regardless of how long KU's run goes. I mean, if the primetime matchup, if this is the marquee matchup between Kansas and Villanova on this weekend, I guess the prize fight, if you were to put it, is going to be the kind of matchup between Jalen Brunson and Devontae Graham.
It's interesting. We talked, you and I actually talked about this earlier in the year about the lack of inside play at times for Kansas this year, how it's a little bit of a different lineup. Is this one of Bill Self's maybe best coaching jobs? Because like you said, if you would have told me in November and December that they could do what they've done without Devontae Graham playing at absolutely 105%, I'd have said there's no chance of that happening. And yet somehow, here we are, and here they are deep in the tournament again, without that guy coming through that maybe they thought that he would at this point.
Admittedly, I'm not the most qualified person to say if it's Bill Self's best coaching job, considering when this Big 12 streak started, I was, I think, in middle school.
Fair enough.
So it's going to be tough for me to say that, but I will, in my humble opinion, say that it is his best coaching job. When you look at what he's gotten out of Malik Newman, a guy who, he said, entered the program as a shooter but not a scorer, a guy who couldn't get to the free throw line or didn't want to, a guy who didn't want to drive, a guy who didn't want to score in different ways. All year, Bill Self said this, he said all year Devontae Graham never had a sidekick. Now Malik Newman is that sidekick for Devontae Graham, and he even said, this shocked me to hear on the teleconference the other day, Devontae may be Malik's sidekick, but he's really been that good. He scored more points than any KU player going into the Final Four than Danny Manning.
Wow.
Other than Danny Manning. So that's huge, great company for him to be in. And, he's in his first year with KU after kind of flaming out at hometown Mississippi State. He sat out a year. Bill Self said he would have been disappointed if Malik didn't make first team All Big 12. He didn't. He really turned on the afterburners, I think, though, in the second half of Big 12 play. He still had some rough outings. The season finale at Oklahoma State was one that comes to mind. But they've been calling him Postseason Leak. That's a nickname that Devontae came up for him. And it's becoming kind of the stuff of legend with him. He's an amazing interview, a fun guy to talk to. I talked to him about Little Debbie for about 5 minutes the other day, and they're having a back and forth and an interaction on Twitter. But when you think about that, you think about Silvio De Sousa, just to kind of keep it brief, a guy that joined the team in late December from the high school level. He should be getting ready for his prom, not the Final Four. And he's gotten to the point where he saved their season multiple times. He helped them win the Big 12 title game as underdogs against West Virginia. He was a monster in that performance, and he's really helped foul-prone and injured Udoka Azubuike, who's been effective when he's been in, but he struggled with fouls. He's helped that and helped them compensate for that. And, we talk about the lack of depth. They didn't even need Mitch Lightfoot, their third and final big, in the game against Duke, and that was a better matchup for De Sousa. But when you think about all these things and all the buttons that Bill Self has had to push, and kind of the enigmatic LeGerald Vick, and just called him X Factor, and maybe being one of the more efficient players in the tournament, it's just been masterful work by him, and I think that it's, without question, in my opinion, his best coaching job ever.
You come to the Final Four, there's a million people. Like you said, just the locker room is insane. And I happen to run into, as I think I told you before, the nephew of John Beeline, who I know from back east, and other folks. Every family's here. Every cousin shows up from out of the woodwork. Imagine playing in this tournament and not thinking that your mother would be here. great story come out today that I think is just fascinating and heartwarming.
Yeah.
Concerning the Final Four in Kansas.
It's on its way, and I'm working on it now. So the NCAA, as Bill Self said, they get a lot of grief for a lot of things, but this is one of the good things that they do. For championship semifinals and finals like the Final Four, for foreign players like Sviatoslav Mikhailuk, Silvio De Sousa, and Udoka Azubuike, the latter we'll talk about in a second, they will fly, I think they give them a per diem, and they will fly certain members of their family, assuming the visa situation is okay, to here to watch them play. For a lot of guys like Udoka Azubuike, his mother, his father died when he was younger, but his mother has never seen him play basketball, ever. He left when he was younger, I think in the 6th grade when he was 12 years old. He hasn't seen her since then. He's from Delta, Nigeria. So they've been wanting and trying to get her here. She's en route to, or she's scheduled to be here tomorrow. The team is keeping its fingers crossed. Kevin Yoder, a representative from Kansas, is working on that. He tweeted today, it's a done deal. She got her visa approved. She's at the embassy in Nigeria. The only wrench that might be in the 12th hour and the 11th hour, I guess, here in the system would be an Air France strike that might keep her from coming. So
a lot of drama
all the things that happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, just talking to him today, and the story's in the pipeline. It's on its way. He would be so thrilled. He kind of, there's sometimes guys downplay it verbally, how much things mean to them, but then you can just see it in their face when they're talking about their mother, how much it means to them. And that reunion in the hotel tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be something that'll happen behind closed doors, but it'll be something that they'll never forget. And as Bill Self said, imagine watching your son do his thing for the first time in front of 70,000 people. It's going to be amazing.
Okay, last thing, and then we'll let you go. Something I thought was interesting. Bill Self talking a little about his connection with Larry Brown and how Larry consistently stays in touch with the program. However, he did finish by saying he's very close with Jay, and you know what? I don't know. He's not going to probably be pulling for anyone. Just talk a little about that connection.
Yeah,
how interesting that
Larry
is.
Brown was actually, I mean, he was around the team in 08 when they won their national championship, and Bill Self started out as a grad student under Larry Brown in the mid-'80s at Kansas. Kansas won the title in 1988, so the 8s always end up being good years for Kansas and the Jayhawk program. But Larry Brown, he's kind of, I don't remember the last, I know he was just at SMU. I think that he's notorious for bouncing around over the years and being in a lot of different places. I don't think he has anything that's really locked in right now, so he's able to kind of hop around, be kind of an informal advisory role. We've seen him at Allen Fieldhouse a number of times this year, and I think, Bill Self said that he is close with Coach Wright, and I think that he said it'll be conflicted split on that. I think he'll be leaning Kansas just because he coached at Kansas, and he is so proud of what Bill Self has done with his career since then. I think these coaches are so proud of the limbs on their coaching tree, and I think it's something you can just see on Larry Brown's face when he watches him from right behind the Kansas bench, and I think that's where he'll be stationed on Saturday. And you rarely hear the word idolized out of Bill Self's mouth, but that's what he said.
That's what I
Larry
was
Brown.
about to say. Bill Self is not. I mean, I wouldn't say that there are very few humbling moments when it comes to Bill Self. He always looks in control and confident. And when you start to talk about Larry, you can see that in his face. There is genuinely a little bit of that little fandom still in his eyes, isn't there?
Yeah, it hasn't been the long years and all the road. It hasn't taken that admiration he said about Larry Brown out of him. And he said when he was growing up, he wanted to be just like Larry Brown. It's amazing, and I think that they have just a really special relationship. It's not an official relationship. There's no official ties to Kansas and Larry Brown here, at least from a salary role or anything like that. But just imagine having that mind around you, and it already seems like Kansas has everything working behind it, and all the resources in the world. And by the way, here's a Hall of Famer and one of the greatest X's and O's guys of all time, just sitting behind the bench. Yeah, he might just throw a word or two in from the sideline.
I think I'd listen.
Yeah.
We've got the Tower of the Americas behind us here in downtown San Antonio. Game time on Saturday. What did they say?
Approximately 7:49. So that probably means for our print writers, it's going to be a triple overtime first game.
Of course, isn't that the way it always works? Matt Galloway from the Topeka Capital Journal. I'm Tim Schmidt. We'll do this again tomorrow. So thanks for joining us here at CJ Online and across the state of Kansas.